Hello, hello. We are back with our current webinar on AI. So we are just waiting a few seconds as more guests join in this webinar. So it's a real pleasure hosting this webinar with you and just waiting a couple of minutes so everybody joins and we can start diving in the topic of this webinar and at the same time introducing my co-host and everything else. So just wait a couple of minutes. So, hello everyone once again, and welcome. I'm very, very happy to have you join us today for this session on how to unlock real business value with AI. I'm Marina Popa from Lean42, and I'll be your host for today's webinar, together with my co-host, Rui Silva from Critical Software. We all know that AI can be a true game changer, but only if organizations choose the right use cases, assess feasibility realistically, and scale responsibly. That's exactly what we'll focus on today. Before starting, I would like a quick introduction of you, Rui, and what critical software is.
Thank you very much, Marina. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, talking about these very important topics. So my name is Rui Silva. I work at Critical Software, and I work as a principal engineer in the financial services area. Critical Software develops their activity mainly in critical systems, being that mission or business critical. So AI for us is a tremendous opportunity to introduce real value into our clients' projects. That's one of the reasons why I invest so much in AI development, but also in all of the considerations around how to use AI to bring the real value in a responsible and that has good impact on communities and our clients' projects as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Rui, for the introduction. So in this session, together, we are going to show how to translate AI ambitions into measurable success, fast, secure, and sustainable. So without losing any more time, I would like to start with the first question. According to you, how has the rise of AI changed the priorities for business leaders today?
That's a very good question, Marina. AI was introduced almost as a giant leap from one moment to the other, and it shuffled a little bit around the agendas of almost everybody linked to business and who wants to jump into the AI modernization train. So for one, it has accelerated innovation a lot by allowing to make things that previously were almost impossible or very hard to do. But it also raised what is now being considered responsible use of AI. So after the initial period of high engagement with the technology, we were thinking, right, this is so powerful that there must be a responsible way of using it. And also, it changed a little bit the strategies for talent acquisition and retainment, emphasizing multidisciplinary teams. So AI opened up the field a lot. It's not just about technology, it's not just about writing code or being able to think about architecture, but it also has about humans and how psychology and how intelligence in general, how we process information is relevant for the field as well. So it becomes a lot more multidisciplinary. And from a business perspective, it makes so the current use of AI makes a shift or forces a shift from a technology first or technology driven approach to a more business centric approach, where technology does not dictate or should not dictate what comes next, but rather business, and the business needs are at the center of what AI and the technology mean. And so they have to have a clear alignment with the return on investment, have robust data foundations, and importantly as well, must have a layer of governance that ensures that AI is used in the correct way, following best practices, and its impacts are directed at bringing value to businesses, right?
Yeah.
And that's mostly it, I think.
So, staying a little bit in this area of the business first mindset, we usually say that we should start with why. What criteria should decision makers use to identify the right problem for AI?
So again, a great question. It's easy to say that something should be business critical or business first, but then when you think about it, you have to determine very clearly what are the criteria, what you need to have in mind for it to be business first, really. So for starters, instead of starting with the technology itself, so looking at the technology and saying, well, how can I apply this? It's more on defining clearly what is the business case or the problem that we want to solve, right? Where we can use AI. So we need to have a well-defined business problem for the use of AI. And again, instead of just seeking the use case for the technology, just flipping things around. So let's say instead of I have this amazing tool that is AI, so I'm going to find a way to use it somehow because it's exciting. And rather, I know that I have this tool, and then I'm looking for the real problems that it can be used to help solve, right?
Yeah.
And the problem statement has to be very specific. It can't be something generic that you say, oh, I'm going to use AI to solve X, Y, and Z. It has to be very specific, describe the challenge that you're facing currently that you think it can be solved with AI or help with AI, define the impact parties and the success criteria. So all of these things are extremely important for it to be a business first use of the technology.
Yeah.
And and this is a lot what's the core of this concern has to be in alignment with the strategy of the organization itself as well. So it can't just be something that's suddenly picked out of the blue in terms of inventing a business case as well. Has to be aligned with the companies and the business strategy. Um, and then there are some technical aspects that need to be taken into account, which will go probably further along. We have to ensure that we have the right data to feed the AI models, that we have the correct governance, and that we have a very well-defined prioritization matrix that we ensure that the right problems are addressed with this technology at the right time, right? So this kind of if you manage to apply all of these, and it's not easy because the traction of AI at this point in time is so enormous that it's very easy to fall into the trap of using just the technology without having these business cases well defined. So if you have these well defined and if you follow this strategy, then you kind of find a correct way to use AI in a way that it actually brings value and helps solve your business problems.
Yeah. So, according to your experience, can you share with us a specific example of an AI use case that seems to have delivered a genuine competitive edge versus just like a nice to have feature? Do you
Yeah.
have such example? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are actually plenty examples already, fortunately. But unfortunately, we're also plagued with a lot of users of AI, which it's just for the show of using AI without a clear business case. One one example where AI has made a tremendous and is still making a tremendous inroads in terms of delivering true value is in the fraud detection in financial services, for instance.
Mhm.
This is something that has been done in a more or less automated way for a long time already. We have had products and companies that are experienced in this type of services. But so and there was always a kind of a delay between the financial transaction itself or the service that's been provided and then detecting fraud. Fraud detection typically ends up being an afterthought, not an afterthought in the sense that it's not being considered at first, but at least when I have the opportunity to apply all of the mechanics and analysis for fraud detection, the transaction already happened, right? So it's always looking back at what was done and trying to define whether, trying to find whether there were patterns that identify potential fraud and misuse of money or financial information. What AI allows me to do is to be almost in real time. So since it's very quick at analyzing the transactions and determine patterns, it can almost detect potential fraud vectors as the transaction happen, which accelerates a lot this process and obviously makes everybody safer in an online environment where we transact, we buy and sell and make transactions almost every day or almost every hour of the day. Being having this assurance that there is something behind that has our backs in terms of detecting whether there's something fishy happening with the use of AI is a great example of how this the technology can bring true value both to the business and also to the communities and the people they serve, because everybody feels safer online knowing that this exists and it's helping them to keep them safe.
And exactly when we are in this part of the feasibility and readiness of a use case, once you find a good use case, how do you check if the data and technology are ready?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. That's probably the where many implementations and many initiatives fail, because again we need to have a structured approach to this. And I would say that there are three main areas or main vectors of analysis. One is data assessment, the other one is technology assessment, and the other one, the final one, is organizational readiness. So from a data standpoint, we know that AI works on huge amounts of data. And so for this, we have to make sure that a couple of things happen. For one, availability, that I have the data readily available to be used in our AI models and on our AI solutions, right? That it can be accessed, that it covers the necessary scope and time period that I want to use for my AI solution. So it's irrelevant or of no use that I have, or I'm trying to do an AI solution if I don't have the real data or the relevant data for what I want to achieve. And the next one is a really important one, and one that is plaguing many implementations and projects in AI, which is data quality. So many organizations have lots of data. They know how to access it. They have it, but then it's not structured enough to be used in a way that makes sense for an AI model. So it has to be accurate, it has to be consistent, and it has to be free from, at least significantly from errors or gaps. So, and a lot of work in the AI field comes down to this, making sure that data has the necessary quality for the AI for the project. Because if you don't, it's like that saying, when you feed crap to a system, or data that is crap to a system, then that's what you get back, right? So it doesn't have the quality. The outcome is going to be a mirror of what gets into the system. Then, since AI works on a lot of data, it has to be volume and variety. So we have to have enough data and that it touches all the necessary data points for use in the project. So it has to be a significant value, otherwise patterns can't be found, and the model itself will fail in terms of learning what we want it to learn. And then finally, still in data assessment, we have to have lineage and governance of the data. So we need to understand when we have so all of these, from all of the process, I need to know where my data come from, that I have enough of it, and then it has enough quality. But then I have to make sure that I understand where it comes from, because all these systems tend to be dynamic. And if I don't know where the data comes from, and there's a failure somewhere around in the future, I can't really trace it back to where I need to fix the problem, right? So lineage, so understanding all of the transformation that data goes through before it's fed into the system, and also having a clear governance stating who has the ability and the permission to affect these data pipelines is extremely relevant for a good AI solution. Now, on the technology assessment side, so we have to have the infrastructure, whether it's in on-prem or cloud, we have to have access to the necessary infrastructure. And we know that AI solutions consume a lot of memory, space, energy. So we have to have that infrastructure. We have to have also the platforms and tools that are needed to implement the solutions. So there are plenty, be that the models, be that the languages that we use, they need to be also available. The deployment pipelines, how we're going to deploy the solutions, all of these things, sorry, have to be also clearly understood and defined. And then integration is also a technology challenge in the way where the AI solution has to be integrated with the rest of the business systems. If it's not, then it just becomes something on the side, which you can use from time to time, but the value it delivers is so much more if it's almost transparently integrated with the remaining systems that the business is using. So it just feeds and is part of the ecosystem that's being used for the system services. So finally, in terms of readiness for the organization itself, I mentioned this before, so there's a focus on talent. We have to have the right talent, and has to be multidisciplinary and covering a lot of different domains, from data engineering, data science, business acumen, and even technology driven. So all of these have to be part of the team that implements the solution.
Yeah.
And then you have to also have a strong culture and operating model that ensures that it is cross-functional, that collaboration happens across all the different valences of the team, and then that you have a very good change management process in place. So, because I mean, again, these are lots of different moving pieces at the same time. Data flows through a pipeline that has many transformation points. And if you don't have a clear and well set up change management system where you identify where changes are needed and where changes are made, again, to make sure that you have traceability, and then you have the ability to clearly and quickly understand when you don't have the outcome that you expected, where the problem might lie, right? So that is,
Yeah.
those would say, what I would say are the main aspects that you need to take care in terms of being ready to implement an AI solution.
Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that you mentioned some organizational capabilities that go beyond tech, such as talent, culture, operating model, because this seems as most critical when it comes to AI success, as a guarantee for that.
Yeah.
So in another area more related to risk, compliance, and governance, how can companies build compliance and risk management into AI from the start?
Yeah, again, especially now that AI is grown up into a more mature state, and where everybody starts questioning the dangers around AI, what can be the outcome, the unexpected or outcomes or the side effects of using AI, and some of them have to be with AI not producing the expected results, but still giving out the impression that they are the correct results, which is a danger, because then you rely on information that might not be correct. So there has been a lot of discussions around how can we ensure that AI is reliable and is compliant with the expectations of economic expectations, business expectations, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, we need to embed governance very early on. So even before starting the implementation of the project, we need to define clearly what are the governance frameworks that will be applied to the project. So from the ideation stage, where you start thinking about what you want to build, you have to think about the legal aspects. Compliance, where will this touch in terms of the business compliance? Can it affect compliance? Risk, is it something that can add more risk to the outcomes of the business? So all of these teams, and again, we go back to the idea that an AI project has to be a multidisciplinary effort. So all of these teams, risk, compliance, legal, have to be involved from the very beginning to help understand whether the idea that we have to be resolved, or the business problem that we want to resolve with AI, has any of these implications that need to be considered from the get-go. And then obviously there've been a lot of regulatory efforts being made across the globe, especially in Europe, where we have specific AI governance and regulatory acts. We need to, as is the example of the EU AI Act. So we need to make sure that what we are developing is aligned with those, and going back to what I was saying earlier, aligned to those regulations. So we need to make sure that it is compliant with the EU AI Act, so that it is responsible, that it's transparent, that it's traceable. We can understand the model and the outcomes, can explain them in a way. It has to be compliant with GDPR. So we have to consider all of these things also in terms of the development itself. Not use data that is not clear to be used by the customers, that we can't access or use it to train the model. So all of these things have to be taken into account.
Yeah.
And especially we have to be very careful and from the get-go look at which data we use, make sure that protected data is being protected eventually and effectively, and that we have a data impact assessment. So this is done as we move along. So we look at the data we use, we make sure that it is compliant with the regulation, and then we do this continuously as we build the system, right?
Yeah.
So and additionally, so we have to as well, and again, to be aligned with regulation, we have to make it explainable and auditable. So the AI model needs to be something that we can explain how it came to a conclusion. And part of this is also, for instance, making sure that we have bias mitigation and fairness. So the system's outcome have to be unbiased and have to be fair in terms of their outcome. And we know that if we feed enormous amounts of data, historical data, we can't. As we look at the data itself, we might not be aware that it presents a certain bias. But then, since the AI solution will process all that data and find patterns, statistically building domains of knowledge, it might kind of extract biases that we were not aware of. So we have to be aware of these potential biases, and be very quick in stating them and monitor as the solution is developed. So which leads me to the next point, which is ongoing monitoring and incident response.
Yeah.
We have to be aware, attentive, and respond as these things come by, right? And basically that is the main. So just summarizing, we have to have a model that's explainable, that's fair, that's unbiased, that we can audit easily, so we understand where the data comes from, how it's being used, and why a certain result came out of the system. We have to continuously monitor those results and process them automatically as well, and then have governance and compliance on top of all of this, and making sure that we keep aligned with the regulations in a constant way. So it's not just enough to say, okay, I've managed to kick off my project, I've put it into production, I should know that now it is compliant. That's not enough. We need to keep monitoring and ensuring this alignment with compliance as the model or the solution is explored.
Yeah. So as a summary itself, what does it take to keep AI models explainable, fair, and trustworthy? It's only attentiveness enough, sufficient, or something more is needed in this process?
So I would say that it is extremely important that we are attentive and that we monitor the outcomes. And this covers most of the concerns. Obviously, if AI solutions get integrated into business systems in an almost transparent way, as I was saying before, then there's a significant risk of some of these things just flying without being noticed, because we can't be continuously looking at the outcomes. especially if the AI solution feeds into something else further along the line. We might look at the end result and not be really aware that there has been something part of an AI system that contributed to that result or to the outcome. That outcome, for instance. AI is starting to be used in credit and credit assessment, right? To assess whether someone or a company has or can have a credit or a loan. And we typically, the systems feed into one another, and we get a final result saying, okay, yeah, sure, we can lend money to this person or to this business, or we can't. So it's almost it's a binary result. And if the an AI is used as part of this process, if we don't know what the outcome of the AI system was, and we are not looking into its potential biases, then the final outcome might be the wrong one, right? So having constant monitoring at that point is essential. So we have to make sure that we understand at any given point why the result was what it was, and whether that result is actually a correct one or has been affected by potential biases or unexpected influences from pockets of data that we have fed into the system. Excuse me. I would say that I'm a little bit concerned with the surge now of closed and private in the sense that the source code or the code is closed for more recent AI models. And that's a concern because it limits a little bit or quite a bit in terms of this transparency and traceability and auditability, because then these effectively create what we in the area call a black box, where you don't know exactly what happens in the middle of that. You just know that you fed it some data. It came out with a result that wasn't expected. You might actually review the data that you've fed it, make sure it's compliant, it's everything okay, but you still don't know what's in the box. And there might be some process in the box that gets to do the wrong result. So this limits a little bit in terms of this aspect of making sure that it is explainable and auditable. So selecting the right model has to be a concern as well in terms of these AI solutions.
Yeah. So before we continue with the last part of our interview, I would like to ask you a question that has come to the chat. How do you handle the lack of repetitive outcome of AI? This is a question made by Pedro Durero. So if you have an answer for this one, we would be very happy to hear it.
So if I understand the question correctly, we're thinking about having the same result with the same input constantly. So if I feed the AI with the same kind of inputs, then having the same result, which is something that we know doesn't happen every time. So this has to be, again, going back to what I was saying. The strategy here is two-pronged, right? One is to have, as I was just saying, use a model or a solution that you can somehow trace back, understand how it works and how it leads to the results that you're getting. And then the other one is ensuring that the data that you have, that you are feeding the system is correct. And if you do this in a consistent way and you have a clear understanding of how these two pieces work together, then in time, the outcome will tend to be more repeatable in the sense that you tend to get the same result every time. Obviously, there's a lot that has to do with the evolution of the models themselves and technology. It has become more and more reliable in this sense. Actually, even in some cases, you might have an input that's slightly different, but the model interprets it to be the same kind of question, the same kind of input, and gives you almost the same result and the same answer that it gave for what for us might even be slightly different questions. So there is some effort being done in terms of the consolidation, if you call it like that, of the inputs in a way that it becomes more and more reliable.
Yeah. Thank you for your answer. So I would like to mention a little bit, because you previously you touched upon this part of the governance structure, and I would like to go more in detail in this direction. What kind of governance structure worked best for scaling AI initiatives? So what would you recommend for steering AI initiatives at scale?
So governance is always going to be a tricky proposition, again, because AI is so prevalent these days, is so exciting, and businesses just want to come out with a solution that has AI in it somehow, right? So it became the new keyword, the new marketing keyword to have to add value or to attach value to what you're offering, right? So if you, from a business perspective and a business strategy perspective, if you build something that's designed to harm and control this impetus of using AI for everything, that's going to be a tricky proposition even inside of the business. But it has to be absolutely guaranteed, because otherwise AI, being the tool that it is, can have drastic outcomes. So we do need to have governance. And going to the very beginning, I would say that it is important to have some sort of governance council in the company, in the business. Um, Coupled with a case study or a use case council. So both an AI governance council that looks at the usage of AI, that ensures that the right solutions and the right tools are being used, but also then a use case council that kind of maps that with relevant use cases for the business. It's just this applying technology per se, just for the technology. Um, and again, we were talking before about the multidisciplinary of this effort. So these councils should have people, senior people from all of these different areas, from legal, from risk, from business strategy, from a technology perspective. So all of them should be part of these councils to provide different perspective and inputs in the sense of evaluating what we want to achieve with AI and how we want to use it. And these councils should review and approve all AI use cases. So there should be kind of a stamp saying, okay, this passed from our analysis, and it's a good thing to go. But this is also not enough. As I was saying before, it's not just enough to ensure that at the beginning of this process, we have this alignment, we have this decision and approval that this use of AI for this specific use case seems to be adequate. We need to keep looking at it and monitor it. So we have to have sort of an AI steering committee that monitors and just follows up on the execution of the projects, and is composed by the executive sponsor and the technical leads to ensure that this alignment is kept in check, right? So that there's deviation just because technology allows it to do, because we know it does. It keeps this alignment in terms of the outcomes that and the use case that we want to achieve.
Yeah.
And then, of course, then we jump into a little bit in a broader subject of ethics. There should be an ethics board, or a sort of an ethics board, that looks at all of these use cases and say, well, this is an ethic use of AI. And it goes back to the topics of being unbiased, that has to be guaranteed, and being fair, so that it doesn't create differentiation between people, and these tools tend to be used for evaluations a lot. I've mentioned the credit assessment systems. They can be extremely unfair if this is not being taken into account. And so there have to be experts in ethics, the law, and data privacy as part of this ethics board or that ethics committee, to ensure that data is used in the correct way and that we validate the outcomes to being fair and to be unbiased. And whenever there's a case, that the outcome of the system is not the one that we expected, or appears to be unbiased, or be biased, sorry, or unfair, then this board is also responsible to assess and to review these high impact results or outcomes that could harm both the business and the use of the tool itself. And then finally, just have operational working groups that just are composed by the project manager, the technical staff, that ensures that the evolution and the implementation of the solution goes according to the plans that were set. And then report back on any issues that have been found to the councils and committees that I was talking about. So in summary, having an overall AI use case council, an AI that determines the criteria and whether the use of AI makes sense or not, a steering committee that follows up and accompanies the execution of the project to ensure that this alignment continues, an ethics board that ensures that the solutions is unbiased and it is fair, and then just the operational work groups that keep tabs on what's being built in accordance to what the councils and all of these boards have determined. I guess this kind of makes a good map of an example of organizations and entities that could be involved in governance.
Mm-hmm. And another question is coming from the chat, from Carlos Garrido, relating to Yao Pinto's question. He says, how to balance the need for innovation and these ethical ways of going forward that ensure explainability, fairness, auditability, compliance, etc.
Yeah, that's a good question as well. And I was meaning to talk about that, so it's a good point as any to bring that in. So it has to be a balance, and I don't also want to convey the message that you can't use AI or any sort of new technology unless it doesn't fulfill a specific business case, because we know that AI and technology in general creates business cases by themselves. So sometimes you looking at the technology itself, we can determine and find that it creates an opportunity for the development of a business use case. And by that, it kind of starts, it's technology driven in this case, but still goes direct to a business case that makes sense for the business. It's not just something that implies a redirection of the strategic thinking of the company or of the business. But yes, still looking at the technology itself can create drive enough to build a business case or a use case that makes sense. Still, in all of these, even if the drive starts from the technology in the specific cases and it's more driven by innovation, we can't help and we can't avoid having all of these further down the line controls to ensure that it still is ethical, it still is observable and traceable, it still is auditable, right? Mm-hmm. Because in the end, these AI solutions have to be human-centric as well. Mm-hmm. And in the sense that they can have an enormous impact on humans, we need to make sure that these impacts are known and are controlled in a way. So yeah, whether they are from the ground up from the business side, whether they are from top down from the technology side, they have to go through this pipeline.
Yeah. And also one final question, I would say, before we go to the closing of this session. What final advice would you give leaders starting their AI journey? Or not only limited to those that are already starting with it, but also to those that have already embarked, and what could be an advice on their next AI use case evaluation?
Yeah, okay, so very good question as well. It's easy to get well, kind of driven by the technology, to be enamored of the technology. So there are a couple of steps that can be effective in starting this journey, or even rethink or restarting a journey in AI. So Again, and we were talking about, and I'll go back to that in a few minutes, but start with a business problem. That's always a good starting point. So having a clear, well-defined business problem that you want to solve that can use AI to solve, it's a very good way to start your journey. So look at high impact challenges, not just big challenges, but those challenges that if are hard to overcome, but when you overcome them, have a high impact on the outcomes of your business. And avoid using AI without having this clear, measurable business outcomes that you want to come out of it. So not use it just because you want to use it, but you have in mind an outcome and have this clearly measurable and clear. So, and then assess feasibility very early.
Yeah.
Don't just go ahead if you don't, then you don't have the resources, you don't have the talent, you don't have the organizational readiness that we already covered is needed to ensure a successful use of AI. Otherwise, it just gets up a half-baked solution that doesn't really serve anyone. It's just an exercise in futility without an actual value delivery to the business. Have to evaluate data technology, data quality, the technology readiness that you have, organizational capabilities. And then you can have a simple classification matrix or scoring matrix where you say, okay, I want to implement this. Am I ready? Do I have the right technology? And at the end, have the outcome that you helps you decide whether you can go through that solution or not.
Yeah.
Embed governance, as we were saying, governance and compliance from the very beginning. If you're looking at something that has an impact, bring in all those people that can help you look at that from a different perspective and say, even if you're not considering it to have that impact, probably someone whose focus is in finding those potential impacts will tell you you can't use these data points because they are protected data, for instance, or this kind of use is against the regulation. So these things have to be considered from the very beginning, even before you start developing the solution itself. Prioritize very quick wins and strategic bets. So again, go after the high impact, but also the things that you can quickly implement and have quick results, because those feed into the business itself. Foster a culture of experimentation and learning. Again, encourage collaboration between different teams, continuously learn about things that come out, adapt to new technologies, and this goes to what Rob was saying as well, to the reply of the question, which is have this mentality of innovation as well, and experimentation. Experiment with new things, see how they can be applied and whether they make sense in the context of the business problem that you want to solve. And just be ready to iterate and scale. Just you keep quick iterations and then grow as the initiative success is implemented. And then finally, just as a final suggestion is, as we have said, it is very, very important to keep tabs on how all of these things are applied and how the outcomes are aligned with the expectations and are compliant with the regulations. So continuously measure what you're getting out of it, monitor the solution itself, whether it's influencing the outcome in a way that you were not expecting or that it's not compliant, and communicate value. So have a clear communication of the value that you are delivering, so that the organization itself understands what the AI is bringing in terms of value to the solutions that it provides to its customers, to the employees of the company. So ensure that the use of AI is understood as bringing value to the people that work and that are clients and customers of the organization, and that it does not have to be feared. It's just another tool that will improve their experience and make the services and the products that are provided more safe and more easy to use, basically.
Yeah. So thank you very much for sharing these advices and these recommendations. I think that the audience will find them, all of them, very insightful, and on the other side, really useful. So just now we are at the closing of this webinar for today. I would like to say a big thank you to you, Rui, and the Critical Software team for the great insights and collaboration. We hope that this session has given the audience a clearer, more structured way to think about AI adoption, not only as a buzzword, but as a disciplined, value-driven capability. It's very important to remember that successful AI starts with the right problem, scales with governance, and thrives with the right balance of business and technology alignment, as you said. If you'd like to continue the conversation, explore specific use cases, or get access to our frameworks, feel free to reach out to either of us at Lean42 or Critical Software as well. The recordings of this webinar will be in the Lean42 Academy. They will be available there, so you can join for free to grow your knowledge. And also, what is very important is to not forget to click attend or follow us in the upcoming sessions. So thank you once again for spending your time with us today. Stay curious, stay innovative, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Rui.